Vietnam's fast-growing economy and complex labor regulations have led to a steady rise in employment disputes, especially in foreign invested enterprises. Termination disagreements, unpaid benefits, and disciplinary claims are now among the most common cases before labor authorities. Many employers assume that disputes can be solved internally or through HR negotiation. But under Vietnamese law, dispute resolution follows a formal legal pathway. Choosing the wrong mechanism, mediation, arbitration, or court, can cause delays, penalties, or even reversal of company decisions. Understanding the system is essential for resolving disputes lawfully and cost-effectively. Labor dispute resolution in Vietnam is governed by the Labor Code and its implementing regulations, together with relevant procedural laws. Vietnamese law distinguishes between individual labor disputes, between an employee and an employer, and collective labor disputes, involving multiple employees or employee representative organizations. Each category follows a specific legal pathway, generally prioritizing dialogue and mediation before escalation to arbitration or court. The legal framework encourages reconciliation as the first step, while still providing enforceable mechanisms through arbitration councils and courts when disputes cannot be resolved amicably. Most disputes start informally, a disagreement over salary, termination, or working hours. The first step should always be internal dialogue. Employers should document complaints, investigate facts, and attempt to reach a mutual understanding. HR teams should ensure all actions comply with company internal labor rules, ILRs, and the Labor Code. If internal resolution fails, the dispute becomes formal and must follow the legal resolution process. Handling issues early, with transparency and documentation, often prevents escalation. Under Vietnamese labor law, mediation is a key and often required dispute resolution mechanism. Most individual labor disputes must first go through a certified labor mediator appointed by the competent authority. During mediation, the mediator facilitates dialogue between the employer and the employee to seek a voluntary settlement. If mediation is successful, the settlement agreement is recorded in writing and becomes binding on both parties. If mediation fails, is refused by one party, or is not conducted within the statutory timeframe, the dispute may be escalated to arbitration or court, depending on its nature. Certain disputes, such as those relating to dismissal, unilateral termination, social insurance, or compensation upon termination, may be brought directly to court without mandatory mediation. Labor arbitration councils operate as a specialized dispute resolution mechanism primarily for collective labor disputes, particularly those involving labor rights or collective interests. Unlike mediation or court proceedings, labor arbitration is not commonly applied to individual labor disputes and is only available in situations defined by law. Arbitration proceedings focus on resolving disputes through a panel decision following a structured review of the parties' positions. The outcome may be binding within the scope permitted by law. In practice, labor arbitration is used mainly in collective labor conflicts rather than individual employment disputes. Employers should carefully assess whether a dispute qualifies for arbitration before selecting this mechanism. For most individual disputes, including termination, compensation, or contract enforcement, court proceedings remain the primary legal forum. When mediation fails or is not required, labor disputes may be brought before the People's Court with jurisdiction over labor matters. Court proceedings are formal and public, but they carry the strongest enforcement authority under Vietnamese law. Courts may order reinstatement, back pay, compensation, or invalidate employer actions. Labor disputes must be filed within the statutory limitation period calculated from the date the dispute arises. Courts rely heavily on documentary evidence, so employers must maintain complete records, including labor contracts, internal labor rules, disciplinary decisions, and correspondence. Strong documentation is often decisive in court. When comparing mediation, arbitration, and court proceedings under Vietnamese law, the key differences lie in legal nature, scope, and enforcement authority. Mediation is a voluntary settlement mechanism with a short statutory timeline. It prioritizes dialogue and confidentiality, and is most suitable for early-stage or less complex disputes. Arbitration operates as a specialized mechanism, primarily for eligible collective labor disputes. It involves a panel review and results in a decision within the limits prescribed by law. Court proceedings constitute judicial adjudication with the highest enforcement authority. Despite being formal and public, courts may order reinstatement, award compensation, or invalidate employer decisions. Employers should select the resolution mechanism based on the legal nature of the dispute, not convenience alone. Vietnamese law protects employees, but employers also have rights: the right to present evidence, appoint legal representatives, and request mediation or arbitration. Employers can also challenge mediation outcomes or appeal court judgments. However, these rights are only effective if documentation is complete. Without signed contracts, registered ILRs, and meeting records, the employer's defense weakens. LTS law advises companies to maintain audit-ready HR documentation. Your best legal defense begins long before any dispute arises. Typical errors include relying on verbal agreements instead of written evidence, failing to attend mediation sessions or submit documents on time, using English-only documents in Vietnamese proceedings, overlooking deadlines for appeals or submissions. Each mistake can result in losing the case, even when the employer is legally correct. Compliance and documentation are the keys to success in dispute resolution. A foreign manufacturer in Haiphong faced a dispute with an employee over alleged unpaid bonuses. Instead of proceeding directly to court, the company, guided by LTS law, opted for labor mediation. The mediator facilitated a voluntary agreement within 3 days. Both parties signed a binding settlement, and the case was closed without escalation. The result: no legal fees, no public exposure, and no downtime. This case proved that early, lawful mediation is often the most effective resolution strategy in Vietnam. At LTS Law, we represent employers through every stage of labor dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration, and court. Our bilingual lawyers prepare documentation, represent companies before authorities, and negotiate settlements that protect business continuity. We also conduct preventive labor compliance audits to identify risks before disputes occur. Whether your company faces a claim or simply wants to stay compliant, LTS law ensures every decision aligns with Vietnam's labor laws and best business practices. In Vietnam, how you handle disputes defines your company's reputation and stability. Choosing the right resolution path, mediation, arbitration, or court, can save time. Protect your brand and prevent costly litigation. Don't navigate complex labor disputes alone. Contact LTS Law today for expert guidance, representation, or pre-dispute compliance audits. Resolve conflicts with confidence, transparency, and legal precision, the LTS Law way.